You're too sweet for me. That could honestly, instead of the around and find out crew, which is what the U.S. women's gymnastics team unofficially nicknamed themselves, they could
Yes.
also be the you're too sweet. I thought they were too sweet until they won. And they have
No.
never, ever, ever in my life, I have never felt more connected
Oh,
to an Olympic team than this team because the petty is on full display. And I
actually, that's very
love it.
true. This is very much a team embodiment of what you stand for.
Which is be a gracious loser, be a graceless winner. Come after
Oh,
everyone. Talk your say anything you want. This is your time. So, of course, Simone Biles and company do this amazing, fantastic thing, and they win the gold medal. And people were like, what's your nickname? What's your, and she said, well, we are sort of like the F around and find out crew, right? And
yes.
then afterwards, after they get gold, this is a few years removed from the disappointing silver medal that they got in Tokyo, where Simone Biles had to quit because of the twisties and it just was a mess. She takes to Instagram and she quotes Michaela Skinner, a former Olympian who was on that 2021 team that went to Japan, who earlier in the year said that she wasn't sure if this team could win gold because they really lacked talent and they weren't really having a great work ethic and da 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 da. So what does Simone Biles do? Does she just post a picture that's like, thank you so much for the opportunity? I love so much that I have like 38 medals now. Did she do any of that? No. She took a picture and she posted with the caption, lack of talent, lazy Olympic champions. That's a read on you, Michaela Skinner, and I love it.
Damn, Elle. I mean, I think it's quite ironic that the only thing that could not even slow down the U.S. women's gymnastics Olympic team is somebody from within, a sleeper cell from within, a teammate turned foe from just 3 years ago. I mean, these Olympians have pictures together back to back, Michaela Skinner and Simone Biles. And listen, I'm not trying to play like devil's advocate or anything. Skinner was alluding to how things have changed. And that's why, like, that dog ain't quite in maybe this crop of gymnasts. She probably said it with a little bit more disdain because, of course, she is not part of this team and she's now making a living on making these videos on YouTube. But to be on Simone Biles's wrong side, enemy side, is not a side I would want to be on because she's America's freaking sweetheart. So to go against her would be going against the red, white, and blue in and of itself, Elle.
That and also I think the where Michaela Skinner was coming from is such a place of trauma. She was basically alluding to the fact that because the Carollis aren't around anymore to essentially abuse gymnasts, that
Mm-hmm.
they are not going to reach within themselves and pull out that intensity because they don't have someone essentially abusing them to get it. And that's essentially what she was saying. And she
Verbally,
would later go on when
everything.
she backtracked and say, I'm so sorry. Like, I must, this is obviously just trauma and like an old school way of thinking. But I think that's the problem is that we think that the only way to get the best out of people is to abuse them or to, try and pull out some monster or animal out of them. And we heard Simone Biles say in the interview right after they won the gold, this is what it looks like when you're in a welcoming, warm environment, when you are supported, when people support your mental health. And she meant that directly to the USOC, who for so long it was all about, what was happening with the coaches and the abuse. And we know how bad Olympics gymnastics has been in the US over the last 10 to 15 years. We know the stories, we've heard them of abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, all of those things. And so what Simone was alluding to there is that you can still get these results by supporting your athletes as opposed to antagonizing them. And I think that's the biggest problem and the biggest takeaway. Apart from the petty part, it's that Michaela still very much thinks like a lot of other people do. It's that Bill Parcells, Bobby Knight way of coaching that you've got to be their enemy. You've got to somehow like find this second gear by being as nasty as possible to pull it out of them. And that is what she meant by they don't have the drive because they're not getting screamed at like I did. And when in fact they had certainly enough of a drive and motivation that they won gold again.
After being ostracized from Olympic Island, like Skinner has, because Suni Lee obviously commenting underneath the picture. Then you have Michaela Maroney coming out of left field and is like, I have to apologize for my namesake, Elle. How does one maintain having a voice? This is an impossible question to ask, but it's a hypothetical that you have to ask now because Michaela sort of backed herself into a corner. How does one continue to be a authority on the sport, which she deserves to be? She's an Olympic medalist in this sport, but the sport in its entirety effectively was like, yo, how's that taste? That sucks. That's got to feel real bad.
Well, she is a medalist, but I think I saw someone post that she is at this point the only Olympian in the last however many years to not get a gold medal because of what happened last year. I mean, honestly, I think that in the theme of this, entire part of the show, around and find out, I think what she did was found out what happens even when you join a seemingly innocuous podcast and you give your opinion. And if you say something that is seemingly very disparaging against a group of, if you're being predictive and you're saying they don't have the work ethic, it's fine to say, I just don't see it for this particular team. But to talk about people's work ethic and ability, I mean, she is absolutely getting slammed. In fact, Simone Biles ended up getting blocked by her. Michaela Maroney, to your point, is actually getting some ancillary heat because people are like, oh, it's a Michaela and it's a gymnast. Like, shut up. She's like, it's not me. It's the other one. It's the Skinner, not the Maroney.
You're on Instagram looking it up, and that one's going to pre-fill because she's got more followers, so that bumps straight to the top, and all of a sudden she's catching absolute strays from people.
So many strays.
Like, you suck.
So many strays. But I do think that it's an important lesson that even if you're talking to a tiny little, what you think is a tiny little podcast, those words carry. It's the internet, it's social media. And I doubt she thought it would become as big as it is, and maybe she thought that the Olympic team would take the high road afterwards and just move on and not mention her. But I love it. When they go low, we go lower, baby. Let's get in the mud and let's come after you.